Kuhn is the fullback with the first and goal. Kuhn gets the ball. Pyle trying to get his way in for the touchdown. What a great second effort. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it now. I said so. I keep big bills up in my heart on the dirty like blood. So ain't got no twist in my head, but I'm still dreadful.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Roto Street Journal, paving your way and acting as your lead blocker to fantasy glory, excellence, and titles, and all that good stuff. A lot has happened since the last time I was on the air with the Wolf. It's been a long time. Since that time, and I never thought I would utter this sentence before, since the last time we went on the air together, we've both been to Alaska, and we've both had COVID. Not together. Not together. We did those things independently. Also, why do we have a banner on our screen talking about Paris Campbell all through the intro? That's what I want to know. That's what the people want to know. I'm your host, Nat the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself, who, like I said, it's been a while, and it hasn't been uneventful. There's been stuff going on, both football-wise and personally for both of us. But how you doing, man?
Hey, doing all right. No COVID-19 list here. There's no days off even when you have it. So ready to power through. Like you said, it's been almost a month since we've been on. Training camp's been open for about 2 weeks, and there have just been huge stories after huge stories, keeping in line with the theme of this season. And I figured this is kind of the time of year where people start getting back into it. This is where I started getting the phone buzzing from people I might not have heard from for the 11 other months of the year. Oh, hey, how you doing, Wolf? It's been a minute. Let's catch up. Everything's good? I hope so. Let me ask you a million questions. And I don't mind it. I mean, that's why I do this whole thing. I think it's great when you become the most wanted man in America because of your 1 month of the year. And I think this would be a good way because people that haven't been here in a while are going to start listening. Let's hit them with all the news we can that's been hitting these last couple of weeks for the people that have not been tracking it day to day like we have. That's kind of the goal of this show. We got 36. It says 35.
I know. It's a lie. It's 35.
Added 36 there. So me and you can always riff on a few. There's definitely a couple that will need more attention than others, such as ACL tears and things of that have already happened. But there's going to be a few of these that just you'll read the heheadline and I'll say, yep, I downgraded him. And we won't really have to go much further than that. But yeah,
we'll see how honest you're being about that. We, we got the Hall of Fame game coming up at 8:00. And I got to say something. In general, if you said, how could you be more excited about a Jaguars preseason football game? I would say pull Lawrence and Etienne. I don't want to see them. I want to see the Jaguars in the preseason without the only two people I could possibly ever give a shit about on the team. So anyway, that's what's going on. 8:00. We're going to try to end around 8. We're not going to take it quite as seriously as we would for a playoff game or something like that. But that's going to be where we're going to try to land things. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe if you haven't done that. We would definitely love it. And give us some comments, too. We're definitely going to try to answer as many as we can at the end, unless we just go crazy over. But you know us. We usually try to get to them. We're going to get right into these 35 or maybe 36, depending on who you talk to, stories that have been going on in training camp updates. And we're going to lead off, why not, with Deshaun Watson. 6-game suspension handed down by Judge Sue L. Robinson. And in the writing for this, one of the stipulations, which I love, is that Watson shall not receive massages other than directed by club personnel and shall not have adverse involvement with law enforcement. So really laying the hammer down there. NFL says no. They're appealing this. I don't even understand how this works exactly, but they're appealing it. It sounds like they want indefinite, at least a year. So this is still in limbo, obviously.
Absolutely. And what I've read about it is pretty much at this point, what Goodell says is what's going to happen. So I don't know why they went through this whole arbitration.
So who's process. He appealing to?
Exactly. You have this person come in. She gives you the ruling, whether you think it's fair or not. We can all speculate on that. I think 6 games was definitely way too light, but we're not here for that. Fantasy-wise, you think you have him now for 10 games, and then boom, they come in with the hammer. My expectation, the way I'm going to kind of go through with this here is I don't think he's playing this year. I think they really want him out for the year. And it sounds like you can't really appeal it from this point on. Even the Players Association couldn't take it another step further, even if they wanted to. And the way I treat all the Browns at this point, including those big name backs, is if Watson's not in, I don't want him. I hate this team without Watson. If he is in for any part of the season, whatever games he plays, I love all the weapons. Donovan People-Jones getting deep with that great deep arm. Cooper getting the first, just the number one target hog role he hasn't had in quite a few years, would be a monster. David Njoku could finally reach his ceiling, but that's all speculative. Nick Chubb averaging 3 more points in wins than losses, certainly going to be in a lot less likely of winning scripts with Jacoby Brissett. Just everything is going to be disgusting with Jacoby Brissett. So the summary to it for me is if Watson's not on the field, I don't want any Browns. I'm going to be well below the ECR, the ADPs. There's really none I want to target, even a talent as good as Nick Chubb. If you listen to last night's episode with Scott Barrett, he talked a lot about his stats and his splits and wins and losses and how much of a boost it would be to have Watson and how horrible it would be to not have him. I've dropped him to like 35 to 40 overall at this point. No interest. No, thank you.
Agree with you completely. And I also agree with you. If I had to bet, I'll bet he doesn't play this year. What I just don't understand is who is Goodell appealing to? It really literally seems like he's appealing to himself.
Yeah. If you knew you were going to do this the whole time, why didn't you just do it? Like,
right. I think he was hoping somebody else would do it, and so he wouldn't have to be the bad guy. Although if you're going to be the bad guy, it might as well be about something like this.
Do it, right.
Anyway, right. You know, like it's more, you know, as much as I like to give you shit about like deflating footballs and stuff like that, I mean, I'd much rather someone brings the hammer for something like this than that.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And it would have looked way better because that's a really good point. Like Ray Rice getting 2 games when he's on video clocking, you know, like there's just no consistency to any of this. Those inflated footballs. You said Calvin Ridley gone for a year because he bet on his own team. Like
Josh Gordon's missed like 6 years because of smoking weed. Anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So a mess. I mean, does he deserve the full season? Yes. I just want it to be done with. I just want to know so I don't have to keep. Like I bumped Donovan Peoples-Jones up 30 spots, and then I take him off my big board altogether every other day. I just want it to be done.
God, you have so much Donovan Peoples-Jones stock too, which is the same.
I got way too much.
All right, let's talk about the other suspension looming, or maybe not. Alvin Kamara, felony battery resulting in substantial bodily harm, not just like a little bit of bodily harm, and conspiracy to commit battery. Sounds like they really piled the charges on. It might get postponed again, which would be the 4th time it'd be postponed. If that happens, the hearing will not take place until we're like maybe a month and a half into the regular season. So you could see him maybe not taking a hit for this, at least playing time wise, until maybe next year. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, 60 more days till it's going to be heard again. I think the only real risk that I've been reading about is if a video leaks, and there is video footage of it, then it could just automatically come down on him. The other risk, of course, too, is if they have this hearing in 60 days, it's mid-season, and they suddenly decide, all right, we're going to suspend him for the most valuable part of the season. You'd almost rather, if the suspension's coming, you want it at the beginning of the year. It's far less valuable to have somebody at the beginning than it is during your playoff push. Obviously, you need someone to get there, all that stuff. But most people at this point are assuming there's about an 80 to 90% chance nothing comes of this till 2023, if anything does at that point. But if a video leaks, we could be in trouble. I'm going under the assumption that there is no suspension, in which case I have Kamara all the way now up to running back 6, right on the fringe of my first round. He's been falling to round 3 in drafts. Nowadays, he's kind of going at the tail end of 2, but even there, I think he is still an absolute steal. And we talked about this with Scott last night. If you want the more in-depth version of this, please go listen to that podcast. 2.5 hours on the top 20 running backs. Yeah. One of the better shows I think we've ever recorded. He's always a phenomenal guest. Check that out. But he actually had Kamara all the way up at 3. And the big argument in his case is even if he does miss 6 games, if you have Ingram, you're getting kind of B- Kamara. You're getting about 15 to 20 points just on the roll alone, even though he is 32. Unexciting. He was the least efficient back in football last year, but he still got 15 to 20 points in his starts. So there's that rub. You kind of have that security blanket, but we're all kind of assuming he's in at this point for the rest of the season, in which case I'm treating it like Alvin Kamara, the running back 4 when Jameis Winston was out there in a shitstorm offense. You move these new talents now in there. He gets right back to the most efficient player in football, potentially, with a better workload. I have no complaints about Kamara unless somehow he does get suspended about this.
And again, this is so stupid. You're right, but you're saying, oh, if a video comes out, it might be worse. And that's the same thing that happened with Ray Rice. They're like, it's no big deal. Then a video of it that they already knew existed came out, and then they're like, oh, like he should never play football again. And it's like, if the guy did something terrible, then do something to him, like, and if he didn't, then leave it alone. It's so dumb that it should hinge on that.
It's all about public image, man. Ugh.
Completely. All right, let's talk new deals. New Bucs receiving core is going to include Julio Jones, maybe the corpse of Julio Jones, maybe not, I don't know, and Kyle Rudolph, who I sneaky kind of think is a good pickup for the Bucs, and also Chris Godwin is not going to be You all right over there, Wolf? Looks like
Stan just fell over, but no, we're good.
Chris Godwin will not be on the PUP list to start the season, so that's good news. Seems like a pretty crowded receiving core, right? I mean, you got Evans, you got Godwin, you got Julio Jones, you got Russell Gage. Who else? I mean, I don't know. I might even be forgetting some guys. And then at tight end, of course, a lot of mouths to feed over there. Don't you think somebody's going to like overreach on Julio Jones in your draft?
I think everybody's going to overreach on Julio Jones. If
not this guy.
Not me, exactly. Anybody who drafts him is probably going to be overreaching on him. Now, have we seen players of Julio's age go unite with a great quarterback and then blow up? Yet Terrell Owens is a great example of that. He had one of his best years of his career at the age that Julio Jones is. But I just do not see that happening because T.O. walked into the situation where he was clearly the top guy. If Julio magically became Julio again, then maybe. But I don't see that happening. I didn't see that from Julio. I haven't seen it from Julio in a couple of years. So to me, he's at best third on the target totem pole. I really think it's fourth when everybody's in and healthy. So the only time I see him being all that viable is when Godwin's out. They're saying now because he missed the PUP, probably not going to play your first week, maybe not the second, but they're thinking latest is early October, so 4 weeks at most you miss him. I love that news for Godwin. I think it makes him much more viable at his price tag, and it just makes very little situation to me where Julio Jones is going to have a role because I really like Russell Gage. They really like Russell Gage, the younger player, the player they're giving far more money to, the guy that's unguardable in camp right now. I bumped him down pretty big too, though, because with these guys all here, it's kind of messy. It's just a mess. Other than Evans and Godwin, we know what those guys are going to do. I did even bump down Evans a little bit. I had him at 12 overall, wide receiver 4. He fell to wide receiver like 6, 20th overall. A great second-round pick still. I still think he's going to be a touchdown monster. But, I mean, he was at the point where he averaged over a touchdown a game without Godwin. Now that we know Godwin's going to be there for most of the season, that does put a damper on that. Now that
I still like Evans, though.
I still love Evans. Yeah, I mean, that's how I rank him. Evans, then Godwin, the wide receiver 6 in points per game last year. I think he's a great value. I have him 10 spots higher than his ECR. Obviously, it helps if you have 2 to 3 great receivers already, and then you can take him and kind of be patient with it. But, he's a guy that's very easy to be patient for in this offense. And I just think it buoys. All of this is, a little bit congested. I don't like the third options in Russell Gage or Julio Jones now, but it does buoy Tom Brady that much more to know that he has these type of weapons around him and that no matter how long Godwin's out, he's still going to have some good ones. They are featuring Julio, it says, early and often in camp right now. So, maybe he has some good games, but I'm not buying into it. I haven't drafted him since he went there. His ADP is like 120, 130, and they're just younger, more exciting guys with more prominent roles, in my opinion. You did say you liked Kyle Rudolph, right?
Kind of, for some reason, sneaky like him, yeah.
Yeah, breakout tight ends are typically related to high ADP quarterbacks. A big study by J.J. Zachariason I listened to recently, and he just screams to me like that type of guy. I don't think he's going to get more than 50, 60 total targets, but I think almost all the targets he gets are going to be in the red zone. A big 6'5" body, good control over it, dependable. Like, he does feel just kind of like a Brady guy. He'll be where he's supposed to be. He's not going to do anything overly sexy other than score like 8 touchdowns. And so
I was going to say 8 touchdowns. That's what I was like. I could see him getting 50, 60 targets, but scoring 8 touchdowns.
Exactly. I mean, he's already been making some crazy one-handed highlight plays too. So it's not like he's got that frame that could really take advantage of a pinpoint passer like Tom Brady. And we know they've loved involving the tight ends in the past. I was talking about this. I forget who it was the other day, but we're talking like we almost prefer Rudolph to Julio Jones, as nuts as that sounds.
I do.
But like, you just know what the role's going to be. So, I don't have really any interest in Julio where he's going at this point. But I am interested in everybody else there. A little bit less so on Gage at this point. I think it is a pretty tough hit to him too.
All right, contracts that have been re-signed. Debo Samuel and Deontay Johnson have re-signed Debo to a 3-year, almost $72 million extension, and Deontay Johnson to a 2-year, $37 million contract for 2024. Great news for both of their teams.
Absolutely. And for us, just so we know there's no holdouts at this point. They were both kind of holding in. I always respect a hold in more than a holdout. They were around their teammates, but phantom kind of injuries and just not really playing. Great to get them back on the field, get going again. 2 of my top 12 fringe guy for Deontay Johnson. Obviously, Debo's right in there. What I really like about Debo's contract is they put incentives for the rushing workload. And he's come out and said it was a non-story. People were making it up that he didn't want to be a running back. He says he loves the term being a wide back. He loves getting the ball as much as he can. And now they have incentives for every amount of carries he gets can get bumped up to about $3 million more in his contract. So ultimately, I love that. I love that role for him. It makes him feel a little bit more secure there in the middle of round 2. I don't think he's going to be quite as good as he was last year in a more run-heavy attack with Ayuk now thriving in camp 2. But I still do love – Deebo's just a baller. As efficient as he was last year, like he might not carry it that much onward, but a baller's a baller. I still think he's going to go crazy. And I really like Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 8 last year, often falling to round 5. Everybody acting like the corpse of Big Ben was the reason he was so good. He's so good because he's so good. He gets so open. He's going to be whoever's the quarterback's best friend. And that's just that role. Like Antonio Brown was fed for years, 160 plus targets in all but one season since Mike Tomlin took over in 2013. It's just, of course, Antonio Brown commands that share, but we've seen it for Deontay Johnson too. He really just separates with ease. He's like an AB light. And that role is something I always will like, no matter who the quarterback is. So if he's falling around 5, I will be gobbling that up every single time, especially now that we know he's playing.
I saw somewhere, I can't remember where, that Mitch Trubisky went like 0 for 14 in a scrimmage.
We'll be talking about that. Okay. Number 13 on the list.
Oh, okay, cool. There's a ton of Broncos news here, but none of it is too major, with the exception of the fact that Tim Patrick tore his ACL and he's done for the year. That's too bad, huh?
Brutal. Pour one out for him, a great hard worker, just a guy who's really earned everything he's got on the NFL. You hate to see it from a real life perspective. And then I always hate to be that guy, but from a fantasy perspective, it is technically a positive because now this aerial pie, which we know is going to be delicious, is now condensed to a lot fewer mouths. And what's that going to look like? Well, what's the aerial pie going to look like? We can kind of start with that. I've been loving all the reports I've seen on this. Up tempo, up to Russell Wilson. We want to craft everything around him. They said they studied those 5 games. I remember we would talk about this a ton. The beginning of 2020 when he went bananas. The Seahawks were finally, quote unquote, letting Russ cook. He was on pace for 5,100 yards, 65 touchdowns, 32 fantasy points per game over those 5 games. And that's what Hackett said. When I went back to watch film, I zoned in on those 5 games. I said, this guy is going nuts. He said, we will be throwing that thing downfield. We will be letting him dictate the pace. So if that means we're getting that offense all year, like it could be insane. So we could have a sexy, sexy aerial pie with really only 4 mouths to feed. Of course, Cortland Sutton at the top. I love him. I bumped him up to 29 overall now. At this point, I've always thought he's going to be the number 1 there. And now it's just like even another, potential pest taken away there. If Judy's going to break out, it's going to be this year. You got the quarterback. You have the role. You have no excuse for a lack of motivation or any of that nature. I am a little bit low on him because he always seems to have something nagging, and there's always a work ethic concern, and he's already a little unimpressive in certain camp reports that I've been reading. So it's still just such a great opportunity for a guy that did lead the NFL in separation per route last year. So he can really get open, and obviously Russell could deliver it. But I'm much higher on Sutton again, 29 versus 55. Certainly a gap that's a lot closer for most people. But the other guy that I really, really like, if he can stay healthy, and that's been the big if his whole career, KJ Hamler, 4.32 speed. I mean, an absolute burner in every sense of the word. We know Russell Wilson, top 10 in next-gen NFL stats and deep passing back-to-back years, led the NFL in deep touchdowns just 2 years ago in that span where he was going crazy. And Nathaniel Hackett talked about getting – I can just see moon bomb after moon bomb to all these guys, but especially Hamler. So it might be tough to know what week that's going to be, but when we're talking about those best ball formats where it's going to just go for you when you have 132 touchdowns from Hamler one random week, it'll be in your lineup and it's going to be a huge boost to your overall total points. So I really like what he can do. The last guy is Alberto. He's talked a lot about now splitting out more wide in camp and practice, getting on those linebackers. He's too fast, and they're talking about using that mismatch and maybe going to a little bit more 2 tight end personnel after they drafted Greg Dulcich, who now also becomes more viable. I mean, anybody catching, we talked about, again, 65 potential touchdowns pace. Anybody that might have a mouth on that pie is worth considering at their respective prices. I think they're all undervalued at this point, and I'll be going after the Broncos very, very hard this year.
I see a bunch of people making some comments. Keep them coming, and definitely, if you're willing to hang around for a little while, we're going to hit them all. And good to see you guys here and interacting. Give us a like. Tell people we're on, just in case they don't know, because this is some good stuff. Wolf, I love it. James Washington has suffered a Jones fracture. He's out 6 to 10 weeks. Receiving core looking a little thin behind CD, huh? Although Jerry Jones ain't worried.
There's no urgency to get a veteran receiver, he says. How is there no urgency here? CeeDee Lamb is literally the only person to catch a touchdown on this team right now at the receiver position. That's crazy. I mean, that is absolutely bananas that nobody else here has ever caught a touchdown. Now, I do really like this rookie, Jalen Tolbert. All the reports are he's showing a good report.
He's going to get some work, it seems like. Right?
They have no choice. And speaking of delicious pies, the Cowboys led the NFL in total touchdowns and total yardage last year. They've been top 2 in passing yardage every year Dak's been healthy under Kellen Moore. That's 2 out of the last 3 years. It's going to be a good attack. It might take a step back when you have no other weapons here to throw to, but Kellen Moore's a genius. I really like that play caller. So I see Tolbert being in a very high volume, high valuable role. He's making great catches in camp every day and earning the trust. Bam. If they're not going to sign anybody else, he's going to have a huge role. Maybe this means Tony Pollard gets forced in that slot role a bit more. They keep hyping it up. They really might not have a choice. I don't know who their slot receiver would be otherwise, which would be good news for Zeke to have Tony Pollard on the field with him. They don't have to actually take each other off. I would love that. That would be fantastic. It'd be good for both parties involved. Maybe a little bit of a Kamara Ingram type of situation. They have to lean on those backs. Would like to see it. And then, of course, Dalton Schultz, last year's tight end 3, 6th most targets last year, 3rd most receptions at the position. I mean, they had number 2 in target accuracy. A great rapport there. You got to imagine Dak's going to heavily lean on this guy. I think he is the tight end steal right now, even though he goes in round 6. I have him projected right around Kittle for output, but he goes a whole 10 to 15 picks later. And I love Kittle. I mean, obviously, who doesn't love Kittle as a player? But I just think for production-wise, Schultz is in such a great spot. I got him at pick like 80 in a draft today in a best ball draft, and it blew my mind. I thought that was an absolute steal. I have him ranked at like 55. To get him at 80 was amazing. I love
How many best ball drafts are you up to? Would you?
I can't say that loud.
Because, well, I mean, when we started doing the big best ball drafts together, I asked you, and it was like, I don't know, 25, but that was a long time ago.
Oh, it's a whole lot more than that.
I know. Well, I mean, you were
it's
in
one of those.
You were in at least one today.
I'm feeling great about how these teams are coming out, and I really think last year I learned from some of the mistakes. And when else am I going to have the chance to just kind of really go all in on it? You know, looking at houses and things like there's going to come a point where I just don't. I'm not saying I'm throwing and just lighting a ton of money on fire to this, but I'm putting in more than I ever have because we think about how much we study this and how much we talk about it. I got to put my money where my mouth is at least 1 year. Nothing crazy.
It's in our wheelhouse.
Anything. Hillary's standing in the kitchen, so I'm trying to. I'll tell you a little bit later. How about that?
All right. We'll talk offline sometime. All right.
We're going after it this year, baby. We're going to win that milli. I'm telling you.
All right.
I feel great.
I mean, yeah, why not? Irv Smith, thumb surgery. You don't think too much of this, do you?
Fucking Irv Smith. I mean,
Of course, Irv Smith's thumb is hurt.
Yeah, it just pisses me off because there's always something with this guy. The promise is so high. I keep drafting him, keep getting excited about him, and then there's something that pops up. And if and when he does get on the field, he's going to be great. Like, he truly fits everything this offense needs. They don't have anyone else. Johnny Munt, I think, is the next one. I wouldn't be shocked to see Eric Ebron land there or someone like that that's kind of lingering around. And Ebron, if he just stays on the field, could even be valuable. I mean, he had 13 touchdowns not too long ago.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. He was the tight end like 2 that year. It's just insane with the Colts. You remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. But if this does happen, if he does, they're saying he's going to be back for week 1. His price is going down. So, I might take a few more stabs if his price gets low enough. But it is just annoying. It kind of just makes me want to go get a Dalton Schultz, a Dawson Knox, one of those guys a little bit earlier. I'm more willing to take an early plunge on them. It bumps up Freiermuth, a few other guys ahead of him. And if he does miss time, I mean, it's only good news for Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, KJ Osborne would get that much more targets. Like a condensed aerial pie becomes that much more condensed. That's the Patrick situation. A really good one just gets one pretty decent sized mouth removed, and that can really trickle down in a huge way. So it's certainly something to monitor for both Irv's value, because I really do think he could have a great role if he plays, but also everyone else around him would take a decent step forward, especially in the red zone where he can do a lot of damage.
Van Jefferson, knee surgery. Not sure if he's going to be available for the week 1 game against Buffalo. That'd be a shame. I'm looking forward to that game. Also, and this, obviously, if you've been listening to anything that the Wolf and I have been saying for the last, I don't know, the whole offseason, Allen Robinson looks really good. Hey, did you know Allen Robinson's younger than Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, I saw that. How insane. It feels like Robinson's been around.
Robinson seems like he's like a 12-year veteran.
No, He's still got his best ball potentially ahead of him, which I absolutely love. To me, that's the biggest takeaway here. I wasn't really targeting Van Jefferson. I think I might have taken him on one or two of the far.
No, I don't care about Van Jefferson.
I
don't want him to be. I hope he was heals, going in the,
No, of course not. And he can bring a nice field stretching presence. Like he's a good real life football player. I certainly wasn't going after him. He was going around like KJ Osborne and just like Jahan Dotson, guys I really liked a whole lot more. So it doesn't impact me. Personally, that's what everybody cares about, right? How it impacts me. But I don't think he should have been on anybody's radar too hard where he was going anyways. But to me, it's just similar to what these reports keeping. It's just another mouth remove that was going to see some looks. So a guy like Allen Robinson, who we knew was going to get peppered already. I mean, who else do they have besides Cooper Kupp and him? And yeah, sure, Higbee a little bit. But it's just another reason to think that Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp could both be top 5 receivers potentially this year. I have them statted out both as top 7 guys. And ever since I said, we did that projection show and I was like, this is going to sound insane. And it probably is. But all the love that's been coming in for Allen Robinson since there, all the highlight clips. I mean, every day in camp, he's making a catch over somebody. He's running down. Like he's not washed. Anybody that was worried that like it was a worry about ability and not effort last year. No, he is still just as good as ever. It does. You never want a guy that's quit on a team before on your own team, but it was a tough situation he was in last year. He was on a 1-year deal. The coaching sucked. The quarterback play sucked. They weren't scheming him in. So I don't even necessarily blame him at that point. And everything so far as his approach has been workmanlike. Every day he's been one of the first people in, the last people to leave. They have just said Allen Robinson, the entire team coaches are quote unquote fucking stoked to use him as creatively as possible, really feed him the ball. The hype is real. Allen Robinson's expecting a career year now. Him and Cooper Kupp have been lethal in the red zone and really just all over the field. I mean, every day there's a new report. Every day there's a new video. I'm so happy. He's, I think, my 3rd highest rostered receiver on Underdog. And really, if he's there in round 4, I take him. One of my favorite strategies this year is running back. Allen Robinson. You're getting the top 10 guy in round 4. I couldn't feel more strongly about this considering what he has done in the past with Blake Bortles as his best quarterback. He's been in a top 20 passing offense.
Trubisky?
Once. Trubisky, exactly. But the top 21 was with our good friend Blake Bortles. That was when Allen Robinson was the wide receiver 6 with like 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. That was in a top 20, like number 19 passing offense. The Rams have been top 5 every year but one under McVay. Like it's going to be a bonanza. And this is just another feather in the cap for why Allen Robinson is somebody you absolutely should hammer, that we will continue to hammer all day long.
Texans wide receiver John Mechke out for 2022. In all likelihood, he has leukemia, which is terrible. Awful. I mean, this is more to me like more of like a personal story than a fantasy story. They say Nico Collins has been making plays and is a mismatch in training camp. So maybe he's the guy that's going to fill that. Obviously, I don't care much about any Texans receiver outside of Brandon Cooks, who I do actually really like, but I hope this dude's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Just prayers up for John Mechie. They're saying they caught it really early and that he should be recovering fully by this time next year. So prayers up and let's hope that happens. It's always a scary thing to see that happen. As you mentioned, Brandon Cooks, though, he already was someone we were targeting heavily. This just gives him another. He was already going to see a huge target share.
He's being targeted by like his actual quarterback.
29% target share in Davis Mills starts last year, which was crazy. He actually had truth. This one got pretty good interaction on Twitter. Cooks had more top 24 finishes than Jamar Chase last year. And of course, Jamar Chase had like that. You saw that one? Yeah. Like
no, I didn't see it, but I believe it because I mean Chase's numbers are skewed by the fact that there are a couple games where he scored like
55 in championship weeks. Right? And that's why he goes top 10. Like I get it. I'm not saying I'd rather have Cooks than Chase, but the floor is there. I mean, he had more top 12 games than T. Higgins. That's what a lot of people are like, oh, well, he's better than T. Higgins. How many top 12 games? Well, he actually had more than T. Higgins. So he is great. He's an absolute stud. Davis Mills loves him. I guess that duo has just been destroying training camp. But like you mentioned, Nico Collins has been a big mismatch as well. They really don't have much else to throw to. He's got a big body. A lot of sharp guys. Adam Levitin on Established the Run loves him. He's been really hyping him up as his favorite to go for over 1,000 yards and really break out in year 2 that nobody's kind of talking about. I love it. He goes at 150 or so in the drafts. I've been kind of scooping up Nico Collins a lot since this news broke. Maybe Brevin Jordan, a tight end, emerges a little bit too. But to me, it's Brandon Cooks. lock him in round 5. A great pick. Allen Robinson, Brandon Cooks. If you get 3 running backs and then had those 2 as your receivers, Adam Thielen, round 6.
Maybe throw in a Gabe Davis.
Oh, yeah. The only guy, so one tricky debate for me, I know we got a ton to move through, but I really also like Amon-Ra St. Brown in round 5. Who would you prefer between Cooks and ASB?
Cooks.
Yeah, it's more proven, but something tells me like St. Brown could be that next, like obviously not Cooper Kupp type of level. That's the guy he was compared to.
I don't know. Amon St. Brown put up those massive numbers, which catapulted some people to their championships. But who was out during those massive numbers? It was like DeAndre Swift was out. There were 2 other guys out. Hawkinson was out.
Yeah.
He was out. I mean, and then someone else was out. None of them are out. They're all back and they're all healthy. So we'll see. I would go Cooks.
I totally get that too. Part of it to me might be like, yeah, they were out, but then they saw what this kid can do, and it's like, okay, we're still going to feed this.
And then there's also the part of us that's like, well, he showed he could do it in the big game, which is like, to us it was a big game because it was the fantasy Super Bowl. To him, it was like a meaningless like Week 16 NFL game for like a 5-11 team or something.
I know.
Anyway,
I love them both.
We are insane.
Round 5, if it's not Cooks, go ASB. I love them both. Both of them are kind of my guys this year. In my draft guide, you guys will see by Monday is my promise. It's close. It's very close.
Mike Thomas, speaking of people that are going to jerk you around and make you just a little bit confused about what you're going to do with your auction money. He has been reported that he's looked fluid. He has no noticeable braces or wrapping around the left ankle at training camp. And even though I have no faith in this guy at all, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little bit intrigued.
How could you not be? I mean,
he's fucking Mike Thomas. Remember when he was getting like 200 targets a year?
Exactly. Last time he was on the field, he was playing with a shitty taste in the mouth. He was banged up himself, and he was still putting up stats. Never mind when he was actually healthy. The last full healthy season he had, he set the NFL record: 149 catches, 1,725 yards, and 9 scores rather. I mean, all he does is just feast when he's out there, and he looks. I mean, the clips day by day they just get better and better and better and more explosive. Today's report from our good old friend Nick Underhill, he took another step in his rehab plan. 7-on-7 period, he looked incredibly normal. Presence immediately felt catching a one-on-one route against their top corners. Later curl in the middle of zone coverage, just crisp, effective. Another positive sign that he's ready to go. And it's a classic. Like, you can just picture week 1 hits and you just envision it. Scott Hansen, and look who's back. And it's Michael
16
Thomas.
catches for like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns.
For facing the Falcons. I mean, what better way to get welcomed back to the NFL? We can all see that, right? Like, you all can see.
I could also see him like playing like 3 games this year, and
which would also suck.
And being like a scarecrow in all those games.
To me, my gut leans like he's going to come back and he's kind of just going to be Michael Thomas.
I think so too. But I God.
It's tough. It is. It's been 2 years, right? It's been 2 years since we've seen that. So it is tricky to trust, but somebody like him who's literally gone over 1,000 yards in every single time he's played more than 14 games, 92 catches is the lowest amount of receptions he's ever had in a full season. Like, I love it. And there's the narrative too. Jameis Winston, with recent interview. I love this one. I love Jameis Winston. Like, he might be my favorite player in the world, other than Tom Brady, of course. But Jameis Winston was recently talking about how they both got robbed last year, and they kind of all offseason were texting each other and like, we're going to have to get back out there and like really just show what this world was missing. And I love that. Like, hell yeah. Any type of narrative. We'll talk about a great one later with Brandon Ayuk. But like any of those narratives of people kind of connecting and bonding on a level beyond football, it seems stupid, but we saw what it meant with Cooper Kupp. Like, you just want to go out for your guy. You want to feed your guy. I could see Thomas. We've seen Jameis Winston produce 2 top 5 receivers in a single offense. Like, it could certainly happen with Michael Thomas, even with these new mouths here.
All right. Let's move on to the Ravens when they're ground pie. We're 10 stories in, and we're like 35 minutes into the podcast. So Ravens running backs, potentially a huge ground pie, but lots of injury questions, obviously. J.K. Dobbins maybe doesn't go on the PUP list, but he's been wanting to practice, and the team's been saying no so far. Does seem to be ahead of Gus Edwards on the depth chart if he's playing, which is a big if. And also Justice Hill has looked quick, showing no signs of the Achilles tear. Speaking of injured Ravens running backs that sidelined him all of last season. Big ground pie, but I mean, who's going to be making the thing up, right?
Yeah, and when it said ahead of Gus Edwards, not only on the depth chart, but in his recovery.
Yeah, but he's also injured.
Yeah, also injured, but they're saying he's going to be back before the end of training camp. If I was a betting man, I imagine that Dobbins, I mean, every day he's the first person in there, and he's like, Coach, put me in, Coach, put me in. And they're going with the medical staff, and obviously you can't blame them for that decision. But Dobbins will be out there sooner than later, and it sounds like Gus Edwards might not be for the first few games of the year. So you could get Dobbins, as you mentioned, the biggest ground pie in the NFL, most likely. They're going back to that smash mouth style, the way they loaded up the line, the way they got rid of some of their receivers. They're all they keep talking about is we're going back to 2019. Like, they're not even hiding it at all. They're saying it openly. They had 596 carries that year. It was the most by almost 100 that season. Like, it was insane. So it's the biggest possible ground pie. When Dobbins was healthy, I mean, he is a perfect fit for the zone runs, the power runs. Like, that's the one thing Greg Roman does well. I think it's a hideous offense, but it's a very creative run scheme, and you need a runner that's very diverse. That's J.K. Dobbins. I mean, he can just do it all to perfection. So I like Dobbins at his like 60-ish price tag. I typically have 3 running backs, and I'm kind of hammering receivers in that range anyway. So I haven't landed him all that often. But if I am going running back there, it's either him or it's the odds himself, A.J. Dillon. I mean, what a monster he is too. And I think I need more of him. I only put Justice Hill on here, not because I'm trying to hype him up. No way. We've all done that dance far too many times. But it's just another example of like maybe the Achilles tear is becoming the new ACL. Like, we're seeing these guys recover from Achilles. It used to be the death knell. Like, nobody would ever recover. And we still haven't really seen anyone come back and really be truly explosive at the running back position. We've seen a couple of receivers do it. Maybe Akers will be the first this year, but it's just like promising that these guys are coming back as quickly and as explosively based on practice reports from these Achilles tears. Maybe it's just another one of those things. It used to be ACLs. Maybe Achilles are now like something you can genuinely bounce back from. I'd love to see that.
We don't want to lose our entire audience, before this Hall of Fame game. Fraser McDonald says, can't wait to watch the fucking Jags practice squad tonight. It's been too long anyway. It's finally Javonte season.
It's still fucking football though, right? I'm going to watch it. You're going to watch it. We're all going to watch it, Fraser, over in Scotland.
It's kind of football. Anyway, Jags running backs, James Robinson not going on the PUP. Travis Etienne, star of camp. Oh, Travis Etienne, he plays on the Jags. Well, he's not playing tonight.
No way. And at the end of the day,
don't get too excited.
We can complain all we want about that, but if I was an NFL team, I wouldn't be playing.
No, of course not. I wouldn't play anybody that was worth a shit to me in any of these games.
No, I mean, we've already seen Patrick go down in practice. Like and Etienne, obviously had the injury concerns last year. I would be keeping him in bubble wrap this entire preseason, but he has been the star of camp, lining up all over the place, explosive play after explosive play. I want to love him. I typically love those guys that are force fed at running back position in the passing game. We always talk about 2.8 times his value of a target compared to a carry. It's the profile I like. I just can't get fully there with him. As freakish as he is, as talented as he could be, it worries me that, James Robinson's already he's missed the PUP. Doug Peterson has called him the lead back if he's healthy. He's always loved running backs by committees. I mean, we've seen guys like Darren Sproles have pretty productive years, and obviously Etienne is light years ahead of Darren Sproles in this Doug Peterson scheme. So I should like him more than I do. I don't love him. What are your thoughts on Etienne? Is he a guy you're going after in your auction?
No. And you know how I feel about Jaguars, and I'm worried about the injury risk. I mean, it's a combination of you're really going to have to prove it to me before I'm going to jump on any Jaguars. And this guy suffered a really serious injury last year, and you just never know. Like, if you told me he was going to bounce back and be good, I would not be overly shocked. But no, he's not a guy that's anywhere near the top of my – obviously, he's not near the top of my depth chart. But then there's guys that you target. They're not going to be number one on the list, but you're looking to hit him. He's not one of the guys I'm going after.
Yeah, there you go. So we're on the same page there. Somebody also tweeted out a video of his running style, and his feet are all weird. And they're like, no wonder this guy's having foot injuries when this is how his feet are like flopping onto the field. So maybe there's some validity to that. I don't really know. Something just to consider for sure.
All right, let's talk about the Steelers and Mitch Trubisky, which I alluded to earlier. I stepped on one of these stories just because I was like, well, I got to mention this. Peter King reports Mitch Trubisky has basically been told the job is his to lose, and Mitch said, okay.
Yeah, exactly. He's sure doing his best to
One
do that.
thing I can do is lose. And yeah, I mean, so it sounds like he's, without giving you any of the specific numbers or anything, he just looked really bad.
0 for 16 in the red zone drills, 0 for 4 in interception and team drills. It's awful. And I mean, they're saying Mason Rudolph is their best quarterback now. So I just talk about how much I love Deontay Johnson. He's quarterback proof. That could be really put to the test this year. I mean, Mason Rudolph's the guy. I do think he'll be the quarterback's best friend, whoever it ends up being. But yeah, I mean, it's too bad. I always reference Mitch Trubisky's 2018, where he lugged a Matt Nagy team to the playoffs and was the quarterback 15 in total points, quarterback 12 in points per game. Like, we saw some upside, but it sure has been a while since we saw that. Quarterback 31 and quarterback 27 since we last saw him. And as you mentioned, doing his best to not keep the job. So at the end of the day, just there's no, people were taking stabs on myself included in deeper leagues on this quarterback situation, hoping you could stack Deontay Johnson and Freiermuth with the right guy. I'm just kind of letting it be. I don't really want any of these quarterbacks. Like, hopefully the right one wins and Deontay Johnson can kind of rise to the occasion. But other than that, maybe Freiermuth, obviously Najee Harris, you got to love. After those three, there's just really nobody. We'll talk about a couple guys that could be intriguing down this podcast. We'll see.
All right, number 14, Packers wide receiver totem pole action. Allen Lazard at the top, but is it Doubs? Is that how that's pronounced? Doubs?
I believe it is Dobbs, actually.
Yeah,
I think it's Dobbs. I know Doubs would be way cooler.
Romeo Doubs or Doubs, whatever you're interested in. He's also doing pretty well. I saw, speaking of this Packers wide receiver totem pole, I saw an interesting stat where in games in the Devontae Adams era in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers averaged more fantasy points a game than Josh Allen, the QB1, averaged last year. So he averages more points in the games that he started without Devontae Adams than the top guy in the league averaged last year, who we're all foaming at the mouth over.
How does that make any sense?
I don't know, but when I see something like that, I say, one of these guys is going to do something. I don't see Rodgers being as low as he is on your list, even though I understand.
Yeah, I have him so low, and he's going to give me the middle finger. He does every time. There's always reasons to hate him and his core and what's going to happen, and he always just proves us wrong. So I probably do need to revisit that. It is a question, who is it going to be that steps up? To me, it probably will be Allen Lazard. He already, you got the praise from Rodgers. I really think Allen is ready to make the jump, be number one receiver. I'm excited to have this opportunity with him. You got Aaron Jones saying the same thing. He can be everything. He's already the goon in the run game, and I think he's shown when he gets the opportunity, he can be a dominant receiver, and he really did. He was the 5th in fantasy points per target last year. We know those targets are going to go way up. The efficiency will certainly flip as the volume goes up too, but I mean, the guy has balled out when he's been given the chance. The wide receiver 8 during the last 5 weeks of last year, and a huge boatload more volume coming his way. So I like that. I do think Aaron Jones will probably be the leading receiver on this team, but Allen Lazard will be a big one. And then, as you mentioned, Doubs, the star of camp right now. Aaron Rodgers rarely gives compliments to anybody, certainly not rookies. He's notorious for hating on the rookies.
For just being an asshole in general.
Yeah, just being a complete dickhead. But he loves Doubs here every single day. He makes at least one wow play. He's NFL ready. You don't usually get Rodgers saying it's rare for a young guy to do that. We have these young guys over the years that have come in and did it, but they've all been top 10 in Packers receiving history, citing this guy. So, I mean, is it all hype and maybe it will just be puff? Potentially, but he's running at this point as a top 2 receiver in an Aaron Rodgers attack. I like Lazard, even though he goes pretty early at 75, and I sure as hell love Doubs, where he's going at 180 right now. I just regret he was going at the last round of every draft earlier this offseason. I remember seeing his name, be rookie Rodgers, not going to happen. I wish I had taken him when he was going there, because now he's going at least 3 rounds before he used to be. I would love to be overweight on him, and it's going to be tough because he goes around some players I love, but I'm going in on him. I've been drafting him a lot in the recent drafts, and I think everybody else out there should be too.
Also, I really hope that his name's pronounced Doubs.
I believe it's Dobbs. It's funny you brought that up, because one of the beat writers tweeted out today, it's pronounced whatever it is, and I honestly I forgot right now already. I think it's Dobbs, but he's like, Dobbs, all he cares about is football, so he won't ever correct us when we get it wrong, and he's shy, and he just doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care about his name. He just wants to win and dominate. And I love that about him.
I love that part. And also, if he doesn't give a shit, I'm just going to call him Doubs.
Yeah, Doubs. What's up, Doubs?
Isaiah McKenzie. I feel like this story wouldn't even matter so much if it wasn't the Bills, but because it's the Bills, I'm assuming that means slot roll, not sloat roll. There on the banner.
The slope.
So anyway, anyway, Isaiah McKenzie running above Jamison Crowder in the slot position in a lot of the training camp. Significant just because we think the Bills offense could just be, producing a plethora of points.
Yeah, 100%. And McKenzie, whenever he's gotten opportunities, has really performed well. It's always kind of baffled me that he does as well as he does when he gets on the field and then doesn't get back on there. In last 2 starts, 11 catches, 125 yards, and a TD, was the wide receiver 3 that week. The other start, 6 receptions, 65 yards, and 2 TDs. Wide receiver 7, averages 30 points a game in his starts. Don't know why he didn't start more often, but sounds like he's going to be getting a whole lot more burn because he's been the star of camp. A new quote today emerged I don't have in here, Truth, that I know you'll love. Josh Allen referred to him as muscle hamster reborn because he's like this short, compact, like jittering all over the field, bowling through people, like zipping. Muscle hamster reborn. What more do I have to tell you? You got to draft muscle hamster reborn. Absolutely. And Crowder's been missing time, but what I love is he did return this week and didn't take the one role by any means. McKenzie was still locked in, still making highlight play after highlight play. There have been a couple days they're saying he's out targeting every other receiver on this entire course. So, if he's the cheapest of the starters at 150, he's become my new. I'm hammering him 20 picks above his ADP just because I got to get this guy. I got to get him.
He's going to be the next Donovan Peoples-Jones on your rosters. Tunes has said
Allen,
severe weather at the game today. Fans are being told to seek shelter. Game probably will not start on time. So any of the 40 million people that were tuned in to watch that game, if even just a few of you would come over and join our feed,
come on over.
We're gonna keep rolling through this thing. Give us a like, give us a subscribe,
share,
keep commenting. We're gonna get to these things.
Yeah, continue to comment in. That's awesome. It gives us a little bit more breathing room here, but get people to join by giving it a thumbs up, sharing it, retweeting it, hearts, all that good stuff. It does truly. We wouldn't beg for it and be sluts like this if it didn't help us grow. It is so greatly appreciated. We would love to have as many of you that we do here interacting and being here, and we want more and more. So thank you guys again for being here. Continue to please help us grow if you can. It's greatly appreciated.
And if you're at the game, for God's sake, seek shelter.
Yeah, good Lord.
All right. Moving on to point number 16. This is one of my favorites of the entire list, actually. Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yes.
For the Giants. Earned the dubious distinction of being camp MVP, which I imagine is like being the kid at fat camp who wins the 100-yard dash. And Saquon Barkley and Kadarius Toney also impressing in the new offense. We can just move to the next one if you want.
No, I'm telling you, this Wan'Dale kid, the Duck. The Duck loves this guy, Kentucky boy. Shout out to the Duck as always. I know,
love the Duck.
Big avid listener. We always love the Duck here. This is not the fat kid at camp because he's 5'8", 180. He's small. That's the big knock on him.
It's an analogy, Wolf.
What's that?
It's an analogy.
Yes,
I know he's not the fat.
I obviously know that too. But last year, first full year at receiver, he was kind of a hybrid running back coming into the college. He goes to Kentucky, gets transferred to a first year wide receiver. 104 receptions, 3rd in the NCAA. He had 39% target share. That was 99th percentile. The guy commanded the ball wherever he goes, and he's commanding the ball already in camp. The 91.33 PFF grade was first among SEC receivers. So I love the profile coming in. I love that Brian Daboll. I know you hate the Giants. I sure hate the Giants.
So much. I hate them so much.
Disgusting team. There's a podcast you have to listen to, though. I'll send you the link. It's JJ Zacharyson, one of the smartest guys out there. Just really data driven and us in our film and just kind of eyeball tests. It's a good compliment to what we do. So I promote that to anybody. We're not partners or anything, but highly recommend it. He has a great one on team level regression. And it's pretty much teams that are just horrendously shitty, just by nature, get 14 more touchdowns. The least scoring team typically scores 14 more touchdowns as a team the next year, even when you eliminate all the factors. And then you get a nice offensive genius, Brian Daboll, coming over from Buffalo. He handpicks this guy, and he's already moving in the backfield. He's taking carries. He's going deep. I hate Daniel Jones, and that's the one worry I have on this offense. There are some rumors they might be trading for Jimmy Garoppolo, which would be awesome. I would love to see that because I really do think that these weapons are pretty solid. It's just Daniel Jones' issue. And maybe Daboll does squeeze the most juice out of Daniel Jones possible. Certainly he will. It's just a matter of how much juice is in that squeeze. But I really do like this guy. He's also moving Kadarius Toney around a bit. I know, again, you probably don't want any Giants, so I'm just kind of talking to air right now. But Kadarius Toney, 189 yards in one of his only starts last year, top 7 in terms of like man coverage beating rate, just really good athlete that's also been, again, moving all over. That's why I love when I read about people moving to the backfield. Tony's taking wildcat snaps and throwing it to Wan'Dale down the field. Just one of those offenses that, like, we know the defense is going to blow. So can they actually just keep pace in a track meet and put up points? That's kind of what I think, like them, the Jags. I have no faith in Zach Wilson and the Jets, but I really could see the Jags and the Giants being so shitty on defense, but then having an offense that can at least put up some garbage time points and get you a lot of fantasy goodness. They didn't have it under Joe Judge when they'd be down by 20 and he'd still like QB sneak on 3rd and 20 in his own fucking 15-yard line. Like that was just abysmal, the worst case scenario. I think Brian Daboll's the potential best case scenario that they could have got this year. And I like these type of weapons.
There's only one thing I have faith in Zach Wilson doing. And I'm not even going to finish that sentence because I know you know exactly what I'm going to say.
Screwing all our mothers.
Right. I was going to say, how much would I have to pay you to let Zach Wilson hang out with like your mom for the evening?
Oh God, never.
Right. Exactly. No, thank you. Hide your mothers and like, your aunts and anybody else. All right, let's move on. Look, I also just want to say something. I'm a notorious Giants hater. I would like it if they were better. I think it's more fun when they're decent. Like the Jets are always bad. I'm not expecting anything from them, but I would actually enjoy it if the Giants were okay. I don't hate the Giants. They're going to be fun. Like I don't pull against the Giants as a team. I'm not like, oh, I hate the Giants. It's like I just look at them and I'm like, yeah, they're terrible all the time.
I think their record's going to be bad, but their offense is going to be fun.
But they're in a terrible division. Like, why should their record be so bad?
Because they're terrible.
Right. That's my point. All right, we'll see. I'm kind of pulling for him. Paris Campbell, if you tuned in early in the show, you saw this headline flash across the Nate Shaw opening. Paris Campbell, first team and feasting. Also, Alec Pierce looking strong as well. Obviously, this is with Matt Ryan under center. So hopefully a big improvement there. Anything to say about either of those guys?
I mean, Campbell, we always see this hype and he always gets hurt. But if he's ever going to get it done, I mean, Matt Ryan's the perfect type of quarterback, the precision type passer, the timing routes. Him and Campbell are feasting together. So another guy I like taking a stab on. I kind of put these guys in order. McKenzie being first, then Wan'Dale. I guess I went Doubs early, but that's come more for Lazard. But I would rank them,
Doubs.
McKenzie, then Wan'Dale, then Campbell, then Doubs is kind of how I rank these guys. KJ Hamler right in that mix too. There's a ton of these late round receivers I just really like, and that's why I don't mind going running back early to take these lottery tickets. I really think at least 2 or 3 of these guys blow up. And Paris Campbell, a zone buster, really, really strong. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that Alec Pierce is also really good just because he's not clear number 1 because Paris Campbell's taken that. He's still getting mixed in with the ones. They're putting him on Stephon Gilmore a lot, like go get him rookie. And Gilmore's getting the best of him. But that's how you just go against the iron breeds iron type of mentality. I love it. Like bring this guy against the best and make him good. I could see Alec Pierce being kind of maybe irrelevant for a little bit, but Campbell has his usual injury, or maybe he just emerges by mid-year and being one of those stretch run, maybe ASB type of guy. I really like Alec Pierce. He's falling because of these reports, and I don't think he should be.
Yeah, to just comment on something that you just mentioned, the more and more I've been doing my homework and getting my draft, both snake and auction strategy together, I've been seeing like exactly what you're saying, which is like there's a lot of receivers mid-range and lower that I'm very interested in and very willing to ride or die with. Yeah. And so I'm going heavy running back early. If I were going at least 2 rounds, maybe 3. So I agree with that completely. Brandon Ayuk, best player on the field for the 49ers in the games that he's been messing around. That would be nice. Remember when he just disappeared for a while?
Right into the doghouse.
I mean, disappeared on a level that we've rarely ever seen a player disappear. Like 0 targets, stuff like that.
0 snaps. Trent Sherfield was playing above him. Disgusting.
Right. Yeah, that was
awful. But this gives me hope that won't be the case. If he's having this strong of a camp, I can't imagine him ever re-entering that doghouse. And when he did get out of the doghouse finally, he played 90% of the snaps from weeks 9 to 18. He was wide receiver 21 in fantasy points per game. That's not insignificant. I mean, that's a good amount. 6th highest graded receiver from PFF. I mean, he's had a 75+ grade in back-to-back years. That's a pretty elite company. There's very few. The list of people have done that very impressive people he's among. But maybe the most important thing beyond the highlight plays and whatnot, and really the reason these highlight plays are happening, is my new favorite narrative of all time.
Let's hear it.
New Breakfast Club was a thing last year. We've now got Fireside Chat and S'mores Club. Brandon Ayuk has been living with Trey Lance, and apparently every night they've been working out every day, just going out grinding, and then they go and sit around a fire together and they just talk about life. They hang out by the fire, talk, and really just got to know each other, roasting s'mores. And they did that every night. They would work out, hit the fire, and talk, and just become personal buddies. And again, as stupid as something like that might sound, that little personal connection can go such a long way for you wanting to get your guy his. There's even a new clip. I posted this on Twitter. I've been getting some good reactions to it. There's another clip someone commented on. You forgot about this narrative, the milk dud narrative, where Trey Lance just looks over at Brandon Ayuk and goes, "Hey, milk dud," and just starts laughing. They start giggling at each other, and it's just like the best thing in the world. And he looks like a milk dud the way he's sitting. It's just like the milk dud narrative too now. You got s'mores, you got milk duds. I mean, I was a little bit out on Ayuk because I was worried about the passing volume and whatnot. But if these two are as bonded as they are, if he's going to be making these type of plays day in and day out, I mean, everybody just coaches, players, everyone just saying he's the best man on the field. I like it. I'm ready for the rebound. What are your thoughts?
I'm all over it. I am.
You like the s'mores narrative?
Yes, I do. And I like him as a talent just in general. But I mean, if you look at like what they got him projected going for in an auctions, like $5 or $6. Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Stat.
Like 8th round right now. I mean, he goes in round 10 on DraftKings best ball. I'm all in. And remember, when he was a rookie, there was a stretch run when everyone got hurt. So granted, yes, he had to ascend, but he really did. He averaged almost 21 points per game from weeks 7 through 15. Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill were the only two receivers for those 7 weeks to outscore him. I mean, that is, you can see it. You've seen the talent. Now he's out of the doghouse. Now he's got a good rapport with his quarterback. The sky's the limit for him. And I was a little bit nervous about it, but I'm ready to go all in. He out-targeted Deebo Samuel at the second half of last year once he got out of the doghouse. Then that's another reason to be a little bit less, as much as I love Deebo, maybe just to be a little bit less.
Let me ask you this about Deebo. Is he living with Trey Lance?
I don't think he's at the fireside every night. I'll tell you that.
Is he at the fireside reading the classics? Dickens, Hawthorne, Faulkner?
Is he milk dud? I don't think he's milk dud.
I don't think he's milk dud. All right. Elijah Moore, firmly established as the number 1 receiver on the Jets. Yeah, that's kind of like being the fat kid at fat camp that wins the 100-yard dash. Oh, wait, I already used that joke.
Still applies.
It's still timeless, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we're an hour in just about. We're about halfway through. We'll see if these at the bottom of the line, if we go on less tangents on these. But, I mean, Elijah Moore, sure, he's probably the number 1 receiver on the Jets.
Yeah, I guess the one reason this is noteworthy is Garrett Wilson was a really good talent, really good profile coming in. So to know Moore is separated clearly from him is a good positive note. The negative note is Zach Wilson still sucks. You look at this one. Elijah
I've been
Moore
saying that all the time. I've been fighting with you on this.
And he continues to suck, which actually at the end of the day could be a positive. And I'll tell you why. Is he's being outplayed by Joe Flacco right now. That sounds horrible.
Joe Flacco's still in the NFL?
Joe Flacco's still there. Get a load of this.
Super Bowl winning quarterback Joe Flacco?
The elite Joe Flacco. Elijah Moore's points per game by quarterback. Zach Wilson, 7.4. Absolutely pathetic.
I know.
Mike White, 12.2. Josh Johnson, 27.4. Joe Flacco, 29.6 points per game with Joe Flacco. If by some ungodly reason Zach Wilson is that bad that he gets benched for Joe Flacco before the year, I will legitimately bump Elijah Moore probably 10 spots in my rankings because I love the talent. You see the one-handed catches every single day happening. I just have a very hard time buying in him at his price where there's guys like Thielen, guys I know, they're less sexy or less breakout-y type profiles. And there's a lot of good studies about second-year receivers breaking out at nearly a 41%, like averaging over 6 points more than what their ADP should be. So, I mean, there's a very good hit rate with second years. There's a lot of good ones this year. I'm going to have a hard time making Elijah Moore that second-year breakout for me if Zach Wilson's his quarterback.
So everyone just keep your fingers crossed. Zach Wilson maybe picks up an STD or something from one of these 45, 50-year-old women he's nailing. And Elijah Moore might be in business.
Starts to burn while
right. Little gonorrhea, something like that.
Yeah, something.
All right. George Pickens has been eating well in Chase Claypool's absence. Good for George. Except the problem is that Mitch Trubisky's throwing him the ball, so possibly we should just move on.
I know. Yeah, probably. But it is, a downgrade for Claypool. Like, I loved early reports that he's playing as a big body slot and moving all over the place and emerging as a leader in Deontay Johnson's absence. Everything seemed to be going good. And then he had the shoulder injury and hasn't been back. And all it's been is star of camp, George Pickens. He would have been probably a round 1 pick had he not been hurt throughout his college career. A 5-star recruit, just a beast. Every time he's on the field, he's dominated. And he's doing so again at the pro level. You love to see it. I've definitely been willing to take more stabs on him. But again, is the quarterback play going to matter at the end of the day? Like, is the talent going to matter when the quarterback play is just so atrocious? I don't know. Probably not. But it's at least worth noting. He's a guy that I just wasn't really on my radar at all. And now he's someone I'll take in those middle rounds, not middle rounds, like the 150, 60 range. I say that, but then I'm like Isaiah McKenzie, Wan'Dale Moore, like all these other guys I've already hyped. I probably still like more than Pickens because I do think Claypool comes back, and at best, he's the 3rd, maybe 4th option. And when you have Najee Harris eating 100 targets, he's probably the 4th option at best. So
this one doesn't move the needle too much for me.
Nah.
Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson, is this more of a running back by committee? You never want to hear that if this is something you're interested in. I would think that if it is the case, which, I mean, Sean McVay said, I look at it like we've got 2 starting running backs. So, I mean, I don't know, for whatever that's worth. If that's true, it would seem like Henderson would be the guy you'd want a piece of, right?
Yeah, because the price tag is so much cheaper. Akers is going early round 4, sometimes round 3. I mean, this hasn't been McVay's motto. I talked about it with Barrett last night, but if he had a guy stay healthy for that week, it was around 70 to 90% of the touches that week. And that was last year. Maybe he's moving away from that because the system just broke down. But when Akers came back last year, even after a torn Achilles, 6 months, he had 19.25 opportunities per game across the playoffs. I mean, they went back to him as a workhorse. He didn't really deserve it because he was so inefficient with those touches. Henderson was also out for that span, though, too. And we did see him get worked in when he came back into the Super Bowl. So maybe it is a bit more of a committee situation than people are giving it credit for. As good of an offense as it is, committees are just at that price tag. You're not trying to get the better half of a committee in round 3. I certainly am getting a little bit more intrigued by Henderson at his price than what Akers is. I had Akers written up in my draft guide as somebody I'm targeting, and that's going to be something I adjust. Yeah. I'm not, because he's going in the same range as Zeke. Like, we know Zeke's going to be a workhorse for as long as he holds.
I actually am liking Zeke more and more.
Yeah, the more I talk about Zeke, the more I'm getting into him too, and we'll talk about him shortly. But yeah, it's becoming a backfield for me to avoid, I think. Henderson late, I guess, as you said.
All right, Javonte, speaking of another potential running back by committee that has been bothering us like a rock in our shoe for a while. It's looking like he might be seeing 70% of the work, or maybe not. Obviously, he and Melvin Gordon sharing the same backfield. Someone's going to get squeezed a little bit, right?
Yep. I mean, I do love Cecil Lammey, the guy that reported 70-30. He typically has a good thumb on the Broncos pulse here. So I do put a little bit more weight into that report. But then Benjamin Albright, another Broncos reporter, saying by his charts, so he's been repping it out every day, 54 and 46 is what he's saying. And then that doesn't seem unreasonable. That's what it was about last year. It was actually almost dead even at 50-50. They have the exact same amount of carries with a few more receiving targets going towards Javonte Williams. If it's 70-30, he could be the next Jonathan Taylor. Like, that's how good of a talent he was by the metrics. He broken tackle rate, explosive run rate. Like, all of it was on par with Nick Chubb, with Jonathan Taylor as one of the best runners in the NFL. So if he does get 70% of the work at a late round 2 price, he's going to be a steal. But if he doesn't, then he's probably going to be overpriced because Melvin Gordon did outscore him in 10 of 16 weeks last year. He gets a ton of the valuable goal line and all those good touches. I do think the offense as a whole is going to be just that much better that both of these guys, if it's 55-45, like they could both pay off their prices. But obviously, again, do you want the cheaper guy at that? Maybe. So I've been kind of, much as I love Javonte, I want to be more in. I want more shares. And if it's 70%, he's going to be a dominant force. I've been tapering it down a little bit, especially because I'm getting a little bit higher on a previous fat running back. We're going to talk about it a little bit later.
Eddie Lacy?
No.
Leonard Fournette?
Yes, Lean
okay.
Lenny coming up later.
All right, let's talk about the Chiefs. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. I think it's Pacheco. Is that right?
I wish I could help you out, but I
All
have
right.
no
Well,
idea.
that's what I'm calling him, unless somebody corrects me. Anyway, CEH, he's still the guy who's being the first team guy through running back drills, but almost seems like it's by default to me. It's not like he's been particularly good. Your guy, Jerick McKinnon, and this guy, Isaiah Pacheco, maybe pronunciation pending, have also been rotating ahead, all of them ahead of the corpse of Ronald Jones.
Yeah. I'm glad to say I have not drafted Ronald Jones once this year, and I do not particularly plan to change that at any point.
Toon says, I believe it's Pacheco.
Pacheco. All right. Thank you, Tunes. Pacheco we will go with for now. But yeah, I mean, 4.37 speed, 215 pounds, a big size speed type of freak, tough runner at Rutgers, a low profile in that sense from a smaller school in Rutgers, but everything is that he's lighting up camp. He's being compared to Kareem Hunt by Albert Breer. The speed that is being cited by Andy Reid as a real factor for them. And what I do really like too, Nate Taylor, a guy we had on last year, talking about him going to the slot and how fun it is to watch this guy split out wide. So, I mean, he's getting the full gamut of that Andy Reid running back where you move all over the place, backfield slot, all that. Love it. But worst case, he's already locked up the kick returner spot. My one worry is that you draft this guy as your last round dart throwing best ball and he gets cut and doesn't even make the roster because he's a 7th rounder. Then thanks, I just blew my spot. But he's already the number 1 kick returner, so you know he's going to be on the team. That's just a matter of, does he ever actually earn the starting role or some time in the backfield to complement that kick returner role? And if so, I mean, it's not a hard depth chart to climb. CEH sucks. We've given up on him, who as deservedly so. Way too in on first year. We didn't ever make the mistake of going back in. I'm never going back in. I really think there's, I love McKinnon, but like if this guy's a bigger, faster, stronger, younger version of that, then sign me up for this. I'm ready to toss McKinnon to the trash and get all in on this guy. So as a last round stab, I think there's a ton of intrigue. I mean, we've seen Damian Williams, he's on the Falcons as like a 3rd stringer on the worst team in the league right now. Damian Williams, he was putting up 28 points a game because he was on a Pat Mahomes-led offense as a feature back. That's the type of upside that we have here. Darrell Williams last year.
Darrell Williams
was a beast. So, yeah. I mean, like if he gets some starts or he gets 15 touches in this offense, he could really be, I don't know much about him other than it's a great offense and he's got some real speed. So very intriguing last round stab type of guy.
Kind of like Darrell Williams in Arizona, by the way.
I love Darrell Williams in Arizona.
Oh,
right. Yeah. And I like Connor, but
I like Connor a lot too.
Williams
but I mean,
what.
Darrell Williams.
100, the best handcuff in the game. Absolutely.
Ramondre Stevenson to see the bulk of the carries in a potential James White role as well. That would be worth something.
If he gets the James White role, I mean, he should be going 3 rounds earlier, if not more, than what he's doing right now. That's about a 20% target share type of role. And he's a steamroller. I mean, he averaged, I think it was close to 3 yards per route run last year. He didn't do a ton of routes out there, but whenever he got used, it was pretty elite. His explosive run rate was also similarly up there with some of those others, the Javonte Williams and whatnot. He's a train when he's out there. Thing is Damian Harris was really good too. He had 15 touchdowns last year. Like, he's no slouch.
Did he really have 15 touchdowns?
Yeah, 15 touchdowns. And why I'm kind of fading that is he had 15 touchdowns and he still just kind of met like his point expectation for where he was getting drafted at, which kind of blows your mind. That's just how
it means he underperformed somewhere else.
The receiving work, exactly. Right. And that's if Ramondre is getting that, and then Harris, who does have an injury history, goes down, and you suddenly have a 3-down back, which never happens with the Pats. But if that happens, I mean, Ramondre would win leagues. So he's an intriguing guy. He does go around like Singletary and Chase Edmonds, who I really like. So I haven't landed him a ton, but I certainly see the bull case. I was at the Browns game last year when he had 220 yards and like 4 touchdowns. I saw it firsthand. I mean, the guy can certainly win you a week. It's just a matter of how much volume he gets. But if it becomes clear he is in that James White role, I'll bump him up 30 spots in my rankings, like without hesitation. So something to certainly consider and something to keep monitoring here in camp.
Miles Sanders has reportedly been taking 2nd team reps. Kenny Gainwell may be on the way up. Now, I don't believe this story for a second, because how would they replace all those Sanders touchdowns?
Yeah, exactly. 0 last year. I mean, pathetic. For what it's worth, the next day, Miles Sanders came in and was the top running back after Gainwell got the first team reps, and Nick Sirianni was like, "You like that first team, baby," and like made a point of being like, "Fuck you, beat writers, you're overstating this." We're just nerds like looking for anything to grasp at here. Fuck off. Like we care. We care about your team. So don't be an asshole about
Right.
it.
Just say I appreciate the interest.
Right, exactly. Like, and good for you, Miles. You're the top back, but you fucking can't score a touchdown. Like,
right.
I have no interest in Miles Sanders, and it's kind of crazy because they have a great line. I think it's going to be a good offense. I think it's going to be a good running game. It's going to be one of the run heaviest teams in the league. I had Sanders last year. It's not an experience I want to sign up for again. I don't see this. Everybody talks about positive and negative regression, and the science behind it makes sense.
No, I'm
Sanders
not.
Is just a little bitch. Like I'm getting Gainwell a lot. I have 0 shares of Sanders, and I'm going big in Gainwell where he goes at like 140 to 150. I'm all into that.
All right, let's talk about Zach Moss.
Yeah,
is Zach Moss really involved? And then you have written next to it, "Fuck off." Come on.
Yeah, seriously, it trending toward having a role. Like the reason
this is the definition of next.
Yeah,
we're moving.
The only reason, I'm not interested in Zach Moss. The reason I bring it up is Singletary. We've done drafts together. I think we've gotten Singletary together in every single one we've done.
We like it.
I liked it. Like he's my highest owned running back right now. The number 2 running back in fantasy over the fantasy playoffs. Was set to have like that big lead role. I know that James Cook was drafted and he's quote unquote been opening eyes in camp as well, was the quote about James Cook.
I love that. It's like there's so many superlatives that you could say, so many nice comments made. Oh, yeah, he's been opening some eyes. It's like that's such a lukewarm compliment.
There was a great
You could just say, man, he's been great, but he didn't say that.
I gotta show you this one. I don't know if I sent it to you. No. Oh yeah, I did. I texted it to you. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
So it said McDermott, James Cook has opened some eyes, and then the person comment underneath, my wife, James Cook has opened my thighs. Just like the stupidest comment. And then somebody commented, Marlon Mack will make you open your mouth, which I have no idea why that's commented on there. But
that's why the internet's so great.
James Cook has opened my wife's thighs. Like just ridiculous comments there. But it does make me a little worried. Like if Moss gets like goal line work, or the reason Singletary became so valuable was because he got the touchdowns. He was like a 60 to 80% snap guy. I know Cook's going to be involved. I really like getting James Cook at his price too, especially if I don't get Singletary. But Moss coming in would just put a wrench in everything. So I really hope this is just kind of speculation and doesn't end up coming into fruition. It could be really, really disgusting.
All right, Eli Mitchell, we're worried about him and the potential of him being in a running back by committee too. You know I like Eli Mitchell a lot, but I have been a little gun shy recently with some of the news I've been hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. The first report, Tyrion Davis-Price and Jeff Wilson could be involved early. Kyle Shanahan, quote unquote, appears determined to deploy more of a backs by committee approach. There are legitimate concerns, like you mentioned, about his durability. And the last day, Trey Sermon was apparently running as the running back too. So it'd be one thing if you knew it was like Jeff Wilson's the 2. All right, I'll go after him in case Mitchell goes down. He had about 13 different injuries, ribs and hands and hamstrings. And as much as I love the guy, he toughed out a lot of them, and he was a great back. I mean, 963 yards and 5 touchdowns in 11 games. That's no joke. The guy was a player for a round 5 pick, but he had a litany of injuries. It's just so unclear who's going to be the man behind him. Tyrion Davis-Price was drafted in the 3rd round, but he's been unimpressive. Trey Sermon certainly sucked last year as a 3rd round pick. And Jeff Wilson is – how many times are we going to get fooled by Jeff motherfucking Wilson? So
every year.
It's Shanahan. It's Shanahanigans. You know, like we always fucking get involved in this backfield because when it hits big. And Eli Mitchell hit big for you last year. To me, I'm just kind of avoiding it. Mitchell's kind of gotten bumped down. As much as I like the player, as much as I like the scheme, I don't want to deal with this year.
I feel the same way.
A mess.
I feel the same way. Here's a guy I am really interested in, which, I'm not a big fan of him as a player, but the more I hear, the more I look at things, the more I crunch the numbers and hear people who I respect talk. Man, I'm kind of interested in Zeke. He seems like he's going a lot lower than he should be. And Jerry Jones says he has to be the focus in the run game this season. I love that Jerry Jones always just pipes up and says something, shows up at press conferences. So guy's like 94 years old, whatever. Just
has to get his 2 cents in. Absolutely.
He reminds me of like Mr. Burns on The Simpsons.
Exactly. That's a good comparison for sure. McCarthy also calling him a keystone player, saying he's completely healthy, clocking in at 22 miles per hour, hurling the highest weight around that he's ever done. So best shape of his career season. I get that, but you love that with Zeke because we've seen him show up fat, and that's always a concern.
Yep.
So he's taking it seriously. And yeah, we all love Tony Pollard. Like the guy is more efficient.
I do.
He's certainly, if you were giving him Zeke volume, he would probably win your league. The one time he got it because Zeke was out, he put up 30 fantasy points. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a guy that has been a top 10 running back every single game of his career. Last year was the running back 6 on a partially torn PCL, and he's now going in round 4. I mean, I just don't get that. He's seen 300 plus opportunities every single year of his career, besides the one time he was suspended 6 games, again, was a top 10 running back that year, even though he missed 6 games, and he still saw 280 opportunities in that. He's just a workhorse. He continues to go and go and go. And yeah, I get like the get out early before you get burned, but at a round 4 price, I just don't see the risk here. Like it's the number 1 offense in yardage and points last year. The line, they lost La'el Collins, but they drafted a first-round tackle to try to replace him. As long as he's healthy, I mean, it's just a no-brainer to me in round 4. We've been loading up on him every best ball draft we do. Like, I love it. The only time I don't go him, I guess the only reason I've been a little bit taking back on him has nothing to do with Zeke. It's the fact that Allen Robinson's also there in round 4.
And you probably took 3 running backs already.
Exactly. But that's, I've become more flexible. I thought running back was the best strategy. And you listened to my show yesterday with Barrett, so anybody listening probably heard this yesterday too. But my whole thing is I need 3 running backs in my first 5. I don't necessarily need them to be the first 5. I could go Cooper Kupp and then running back. Or I also like David Montgomery falling to round 5, who we're going to talk about in just a second. There's just once that tier drops off, it's horrible. So I want to get 3 of those top 20 guys wherever they end up coming from. But Zeke being that round 4 one is very, very intriguing to me. And your option, he's probably going to go too cheap.
I'm still, if I'm doing a snake, I'm going running back. I love Kupp. I have thoughts on taking Kupp as high as he's going on everybody's board.
Would you take Christian McCaffrey? Like, who would you take?
I would.
You would. So you're going back to CMC, huh?
I don't want to, but I mean, look, if you look at like auction value and stuff like that, Cooper Kupp's going like $58 or something like that. It's similar to like Josh Allen. It's like, he's going for twice as much as the next guy.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's like, when now I'm talking about Josh Allen, but it's like, is Josh Allen going to pass for 8,000 yards? No. Is Josh Allen going to throw 65 touchdowns? No. It's like, it's a ridiculous I would be awesome, but he's not going to. It's a ridiculous premium, when I'm talking like auction stuff. If Cooper Kupp's going 58 and the next guy's going 44, and then you're dropping down there, it's like, I'm never going to own Cooper Kupp at that price. Yeah. Even as great as I think he is. Yeah, I would go CMC before him.
We can do, and we should do a whole auction episode. I know our boy Seamus needs some auction.
I would like to talk some auction.
But I definitely have the same philosophy that worked out really well last year, where you get those early expensive running backs, and then you attack you did it last year. You followed the game plan.
It worked perfectly, except that Calvin Ridley gambled, CMC and Chris Carson got hurt, and something else terrible happened.
Yeah, well, you had Cooper Kupp and T. Higgins, though. That's what I was getting at. That tier of
and Matt Stafford, who I got for $1.
Yeah, this year it's that same idea. Allen Robinson, Deontay Johnson, Gabe Davis. Like that tier of receivers is going to be way too cheap. You can get those 3 guys, 2 bell cows. Like it's a beautiful way to start.
Right. And because of that, I won't. We'll talk. I do want to talk about this.
We'll
more
do
on
an auction
show, stuff like that. All right. Let's talk. David Montgomery's been playing some special teams. Should we care?
Yeah. There we go. Now
should we care? And my answer is a resounding no. Even if I'm interested in, I get Montgomery as a talent. I'm not owning any Montgomery this year unless something weird happens. Is the fact that he's appearing in special team stuff, does that move the needle for me at all? Not at all. Does it for you?
No, but I actually like Montgomery. I feel a lot of people are looking at this report and using this to pile on and confirm their priors. He volunteered. Like he was done with his reps and said, "Hey, coach, can I go out and kickoffs and like practice out there just for the hell of it? Because I'm just not doing anything right now." So, and now everyone's, he's on special teams. Like you got to look at the whole fucking report. It wasn't like the coach was like, "You suck. We're taking you out of the starting lineup to put you on special teams." No, he asked to be out there. The more important reports to me are the ones.
No, that's how I took it. That's how I took it. I wasn't taking it as he's been demoted to special teams.
A lot of people are.
That's stupid. No, I didn't take it that way at all.
And if you don't,
I took it as like he's going to return a kick every now and then, and that doesn't do anything for me.
And he's not going to. There's no way, unless this is going on preseason week 3 and he's still out there, maybe. But to me, what I like, the quote that nobody's talking about is he told reporters, wherever they need me, I'm ready to go. That is the whole special teams thing. But the quote that I like is, we're going to stress these guys from the quote and stretch their role. Can he run the full gamut of the passing game? What routes is he good at? How's the timing of that? Can he beat guys one-on-one? We think he has the skills to do that. So the sky's the limit. We don't put ceiling on these guys. We won't cap how much we're feeding you. That's the whole process of the whole football team. We encourage you to do everything you possibly can. So nobody's talking about his expanded potential receiving role that he's pretty good at. Scott Barrett talked about, like, he had the most targets down the stretch of last year, the most fantasy points expectations per game, like 3rd in fantasy points per game. I mean, he's running back 8 and running back 15. He falls around 5, and he's going to probably get more work as a receiver than ever before. I mean, I like it. I like David Montgomery a lot.
Those are all good points. Do you think the Bears could be the worst team in the NFL?
Yeah. I mean, the Jets, Giants, and Jags, the teams that you hate.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the Bears are markedly better than any of those teams.
And I just think the Bears are going to be committed to the run. Like, they're going to be bad, and the bad parts of them are going to at least help Montgomery out. At least is my
maybe. I could see that narrative being correct. I'm scared of anybody that's on a team like that. When there aren't other weapons to take some of the heat off you, all of a sudden I'm just like, is David are they going to be losing these games like 31-10, but Montgomery's rushing for 160 yards and a score? I kind of don't think so. We'll see what happens.
Not. Yeah.
Mike Gesicki blocking more. We're in the part of the podcast now where we're talking about tight ends maybe blocking a little more.
Yeah. Very thrilling stuff. But no, the reason it's important is Gesicki's not a blocker. He didn't come into the league as a blocker. He's a great athlete. Like, he played almost all his snaps in the slot and split out wide last year. And now they're making him do something he's pretty ill-fitted for. Could this result in him actually being taken off the field? Really well could, because they're not going to sacrifice Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill's snaps. And if he's not getting it done as a blocker, it could get ugly for Mike Gesicki. So to me, it's just like, I'm kind of fading Gesicki pretty hard at this point. As good as he was, he's been a top 12 tight end in back-to-back years. He is a good athlete. But if he doesn't get the blocking down well, and it doesn't sound like it's going overly well for him, there's just too many other tight ends like Gerald Everett with the Chargers or Hunter Henry, the touchdown machine. Like, there's just other guys in this range I'm going to be more drawn to. If I haven't, again, it's just another reason as well to go after Dawson Knox, or even earlier, Dalton Schultz. Or I've been actually getting pretty into Kyle Pitts lately in round 3. We'll talk about him on a future episode, but like, I think he could be a cheat code this year. I'm ready.
Third round? I don't know, man.
I think so.
All right. Well, here's a guy you've always kind of been a little bit intrigued by, Mo Alley-Cox. Locked in the tight end 1 role in the wake of Jack Doyle, the Beanstalk's retirement. I hope you're having a good offseason, Doyle. Anyway, you've always described Cox as like a kind of a freak athlete, and you're thinking maybe he lands in here with Matt Ryan and we see something?
Yeah, Matt Ryan has always liked his tight ends, and Frank Reich has always loved throwing to his tight ends. I mean, yes, he's had Zach Ertz and Antonio Gates, but he gave Eric Ebron 110 fucking targets. So, like, there could be some real value here. The concern with Mo Alley-Cox so far this offseason was they drafted Jelani Woods, another athletic freak, maybe even more, definitely more athletic than Mo Alley-Cox, but he's coming along slower than the team would like. He's looked lost at times. Kyle Granson, an athletic second-year tight end, too many drops this spring, hasn't flashed much in camp so far. Mo Alley-Cox is the only one getting any type of positive buzz, showing a good rapport with Matt Ryan, scoring a lot of touchdowns in red zone drills. 6'4", 262, like a big beast that could catch a bunch of touchdowns in a scheme that likes the tight end with a quarterback that likes to throw to it. He's going undrafted mostly. So it's like a last round best ball stab if you have pretty weak tight ends.
Yeah.
I think I do prefer Kyle Rudolph still, just because it's playing with Brady and we know he's going to do well. But I'm really warming up to Mo Alley-Cox and the next guy we're going to talk about.
If the next guy on your list is Donald Parham, he's having a great camp and he's a prominent piece of the offense for the Chargers. And kind of anybody that you think is going to be a prominent piece of the offense for the Chargers is at least worth kind of a double take, right?
I mean, that's the whole argument. Exactly. And I'm happy to see this because if you don't remember, he had a really bad injury where he got like carted off. There was concerns of like, is he going to be able to move his limbs and stuff? At one point last year, he ended up missing the rest of the year. But to see the guy back and playing football and like thriving you love to see that when there's a scary injury like that. So it's great to see. He's 6'8" as well. He was the XFL legend. He won the MVP award, I believe, for the XFL. So you love that. He already was kind of a red zone monster with Justin Herbert. So another last round tight end that you could potentially take a stab at. The Chargers were 9th in tight end targets. They were 12th in TDs and air yards with Jared Cook last year. He sucked. And the other thing to note too is maybe this dings Gerald Everett, who I've been going all in on this year. I really like Gerald Everett. He is a good athlete too. I'm not going to stop drafting him, but maybe you bump him down a spot or two if Parham's doing as well as he is. And maybe you take a stab on Parham late because he's certainly going to score a few touchdowns. And if he's part of the downfield passing attack, I mean, a 6'8" monster streaking down the field, that just gets you a little rowdy downstairs, doesn't it?
Streaking down the field? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
A monster streaking down the field. Hayden Hurst, most comfortable he's been on any of his 5 NFL teams. Of course, he's with the Bengals now. We have Hayden Hust written on the banner, but I know because I'm a huge football fan that we're talking about Hayden Hurst, new Bengals tight end. Most comfortable he's been. The Wolf was doing a lot of banners. So, like, if there's a letter off here and there.
36 banners tonight.
Right. And we've missed like 2 letters. Give us a break. We've talked about Sloat receiving, and we've talked about Hayden Hust.
Yes, exactly.
Give us a break. So, anyway, he's comfortable there. Big upside? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I'm not sold on it, I have to admit.
I mean, clearly he's going to be behind 2 monsters, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Tyler Boyd going to be behind him as well. And then you got Joe Mixon or whatever running back if they're going to keep using fucking Samaje Perine. Ugh, just the most misuse of talent out of that backfield of all time by not using Mixon in those situations. But at the end of the day, we saw CJ Uzomah finish as the tight end 1 multiple times last year. In the playoffs, he got a little bit more involved. It's a team that's going to be in the red zone quite a bit, especially with a better line. This is what I like about Hurst is they're not going to need to use him in line like they did with CJ Uzomah because they're not going to need the blocking help with how much they've revamped the line. So he will be like a big slot guy. I could see him going like 4 out wide with him out there and scoring a decent amount of touchdowns on this offense. So the breakout tight end metric, again, it's very often tied to the offense. It's a guy that's going to score a lot of touchdowns. And I wouldn't be shocked if Hurst is kind of like Kyle Rudolph, 7 to 8 touchdowns. So if I waited on tight end and if you don't get one of those top guys, I don't see any reason to go in the middle. Like you either get one of the best guys, Schultz and Knox are kind of the cutoff for me. And then I'll take stabs at 2 or 3 of these guys in best ball. Hurst and Rudolph and Mo Alley Cox is my last 3 picks type of thing. And just one of them scores a touchdown every week would be great. That's kind of how I look at it.
That would be great. All right. Now we're moving on to, is this the best shape of their career?
The classic.
Element? Okay. Jack Lamar throwing better than ever, supposedly. Saying, I think it's the best I've seen him throw it thus far. And they're also talking specifically about like his long ball and stuff. And it's like his problem has never really been his long ball.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I read, even though he annoys me, I read a Matthew Berry piece recently where he was comparing 2 players, quarterback A and quarterback B. And he was like lauding quarterback A and how great his stats are and everything, blah, 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 blah. And then quarterback B and how bad his stats are. And it's like, quick, which one do you want? And they were both Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Which, I was like, yeah, all right, that's an interesting angle because it's basically like if you want to believe in Lamar, there's a lot of reason to believe in Lamar. And if you don't want to believe in Lamar, there's a shitload of data that suggests you shouldn't really believe in Lamar. So I'm glad he's throwing better than ever. I'm glad he's in good shape. I'm not all in on Lamar.
Yeah, I'm sure we've been off of him all pod. We've even gone as far as calling him the most overrated quarterback in fantasy right now.
He's the guy. Yeah, he's the guy you're chasing the stats from a few years ago.
2019, the Cam Newton year that you've comped to, and I think it's a fair comp at that point. I do think he's a bit more of a freak than Cam Newton. But I mean, imagine saying that in 2015 when Cam Newton was doing his thing. Like, he was the quarterback 9 and quarterback 10 in fantasy points per game the last couple of years. Just 5 top 12 performances. That was 1 more than Davis Mills in 12 starts. They both had 12 starts, and Davis Mills was 1 away from Lamar Jackson in top 12 performances. Jackson Barrett, who loves him and one of our smartest writers on the staff, did point out pretty well that he was the quarterback for, if you take away the injury games, where he, had 0 points that are really bringing down his average. And that is fair. He includes the playoff games, though. And you start adding in these ifs, and you take that away, you take this away. And at the end of the day, maybe he's just been figured out at this point by the league. Maybe he's just not all that good. Maybe he does have the best arm he's ever had, and he returns to cheat code levels and shoves it up us and makes us look like complete absolute morons.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Happen. I mean, his ceiling is that big. To me, where he goes, though, he goes at like round 4 right now. I'll never draft him that early, like ever. I'll
no.
5 rounds later and just be okay with the fact that my quarterback's not running. Like, yeah, Konami is cool, but last year, 4 of the top 6 quarterbacks, or I think 5 of the top 6 weren't Konami guys. They were just standard,
just guys.
Throw, like part of me just kind of wants that nice, comfortable. Matt Stafford's going to go throw 45 touchdowns and I just can relax.
Matt Ryan's going to
take a sigh,
Matt Ryan and a bowl a big bowl of shredded wheat.
Exactly. Give me a bowl of shredded wheat. Like that's all I need. Something to sustain me all year. Let me stay. Yeah, maybe I won't get that 50-point blow up, but for Matt Ryan, that was still the most ridiculous thing I think we've ever
I'm trying to remember the whole back.
Michael Pittman. It was Matt Ryan can put it wherever he wants it. And
I remembered it was something about it was something about Matt Ryan, one of those old-fashioned big pillows of shredded wheat and a dick. Yeah, and I don't.
No, it was 100%. It was him force feeding it to Michael Pittman because Pittman said he can put it wherever he wants it. So, and here,
I want out of the
hour and a half in, this is where we go off the rails, baby.
Yeah, we're all a little tired. All right, let's talk about Lenny. You love him. He's lean Lenny. He's back up to 240 pounds. He's the clear number 1.
Lean Lenny, 240 pounds. It's just funny to say, isn't it? Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Lean. I just not like that. It rolls off the tongue, too, lean Lenny. So, no, I actually don't love Lenny. I've been lower on Lenny all offseason. The reason being lower was because the running back coach talked about how he was ad-libbing his routes, not where he was supposed to be. But then, the positive point everyone brings up when I bring that up is, well, it doesn't matter if Tom Brady wants him out there, and Tom Brady loves him. Tom Brady trusts him. He is Tom Brady's guy, and that's all that matters. They did go out and draft the best pass-catching back that's come in a long time, certainly of this class, maybe of the last few years. Rachaad White, I think is an absolute freak. And if something happens to Fournette, I could see Rachaad White being that like David Johnson. Remember a couple years ago when he was a rookie, 2016, and just won people leagues down the stretch. Like that's the type of guy I think Rachaad White is. That's how valuable this running back role is. When you're betting on Fournette, you're betting on the role. Like, yeah, he's been a solid, sturdy back his whole career, but you're really betting on an 80% snap guy that he was last year, getting all the routes, getting all the targets. And again, maybe he will. Scott Barrett kind of came on and gave me some insane stats last night that make me think I'm definitely too low on Lenny. His last 4 games last year averaged 30.3 points per game. That's playoff Lenny, but I mean, he has that type of upside. That's more than McCaffrey. 29.5 across his, that was McCaffrey's. So, he had more than him. He had 25.3 his last 6. Over his last 11, 22.2. I mean, all those were the most fancy.
Has he really gained 35 pounds, though?
So he lost.
That's not nothing. 35 pounds is a lot.
No, I think he lost 35 was the thing. He was like 260 when he first showed up.
He was 35 pounds over 240?
So he was like 260 when he first showed up to camp.
So he's lost 20 pounds.
He's lost 20, yeah.
260. Yeah. How tall is Lenny Fournette? I
think he's like 6'1". He's a pretty big boy, but and
I'm 6'1", and if I was 260 pounds, like I'm out of shape and fat, and if I was, I'm way below 260.
I don't know how tall he is. That's a good question. If anyone in the chat wants to look it up and tell us how tall he is, but I mean, yeah, he came in huge. Like 260 is a monster. He did lose. He typically plays around 240. That's what he came into the league at, and he's back down. He came to camp at 245, and he's lost another 5 since starting. So like
it says he's 6 feet tall. It says he's 6 feet. That probably means he's like 5'11".
Yeah, it's beast. So he's back
so
down.
5'11", 260.
What I do like about Lenny as well is like he openly was like, man, I go home and my mom's cooking is just so damn good. And
I feel that
the food is so great where he's from and the Louisiana cooking. Like I get it. Like he's kind of like all of us when we go home and just get big over the holidays. Like that's what he does. And then he knows how.
Except the holidays was like several months.
7 months for him, yeah. But he does. It isn't the first time it's happened. So to me, I was fading him for all the fat and for the concerns over his receiving work. And a lot of people that are smarter than me are pointing out that those concerns might not be valid. So I've kind of gone back in on Lenny at the end of second. Like the role is just so valuable, especially if you can handcuff him with Rachaad White. If this does end up, he gets hurt or anything of that nature. It's just such a great role. I guess the one concern is they already lost their center. And if they don't sign J.C. Treader, their line is going to be really bad in the interior, which could be tough for Lenny running. But I just like that. I wanted to express, because I've talked so much about how much I hate Leonard Fournette on the show throughout the offseason. The fact that he lost the weight, the fact that Brady's still vouching for his guy, like, how can I not vouch for him if Brady is, So unless Rachaad White really starts to impress in camp, I'm back on the Lenny Fournette. Sure. Big train Lenny.
Big or small, or like jumbo.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, Treylon Burks looking much better. All right.
Yeah.
Titans receiving core.
Robert Woods as well, 100% healthy, not even playing with a brace. The reason why it matters, no team has given more vacated targets, 351, share of targets, 67%, air yards, 2,914, air yard share, 75% of their air yards. Like that is fucking crazy. We talked about the Lions a lot last year, and we saw Amon-Ra St. Brown eventually step up and eat those. Like that was, I think, 69%, 75% of their air yards are up for grabs. And then inside the 10 targets, 22. Also, all those categories. So every meaningful vacated air opportunity metric is going to the Titans right now. And so it's going to be somebody steps up. Maybe it's both of them because there's certainly enough available volume. I don't think Tannehill's great, but we've seen him sustain some pretty good receivers here. We know it's the Henry show, but I like both these guys where they're going after pick 100 in drafts right now. Like I think Woods is the safer bet. I think he's just going to be sturdy, steady, 6 to 8 catches every week. Whereas Burks is the guy that when he gets the worry with him was he didn't show up in shape. He was having asthma, quote unquote, and just kind of sucked in the mini camp. But everything says that he went home, kind of like Lenny. He just dedicated himself. He came back as a different man. And every single day, contested grab, red zone drills, he's winning. He's the highlight reel of camp right now. And that's what you want to see out of a Treylon Burks, who was comped to a linebacker-sized Deebo Samuel coming in. And he wrestles hogs for fun. That's how he gets in shape, is wrestling hogs. I mean, how can you not love that?
I do love that. I admit it.
Right. Okay. So I knew that if anything was going to sell you on Treylon Burks, it'd be the rest.
That was the first. That was the first thing you said on these Titans receivers that got my attention. I was like, "Go on."
Tell me more about the hog. How big was it?
All right,
250 pounds. It was Leonard Fournette.
All right. All right. Let's hit some comments real quick. David says, "Fantasy football is back. The boys are back in town. Happy to see the Wolf feeling better, and the truth is ready. A new addition to the Wolfpack came here at the end of July. Boys, be prepared for her to smoke our asses in a few years. Congratulations, dude."
Congratulations, Campanelli. We love to see the Wolfpack grow.
Yeah, Mahmoud, what's up, fellas? Good to see you guys. I saw he was watching your Barrett podcast the other day too. So
hell yeah, he's a loyal fan. We always love seeing you, Mahmoud.
Good to see you too. Toon said this will not be a happy ending for Watson. Yes and no, Toons, because obviously wonderful double entendre there, but he's going to walk away with hundreds of millions of dollars.
I mean, so like 250.
Right. I'll bet.
I think has ever been handed out.
Ultimately, I'll bet it's at least a fairly happy ending for him.
How is the first ever fully guaranteed NFL contract to a guy that has 26 allegations against him? How does the franchise do that?
It would seem an unlikely decision to me.
Browns being Browns, baby.
Just the Browns being the Browns. Let's not forget they are still the Browns. David says, Wolf and Truth say no Watson, no Browns. Take that to the bank. Yes, sir.
Yep. That's exactly the great way to summarize it all for us. Thank you.
David says, where would you grab Kamara's backup in the draft?
Mark Ingram. I mean, I'll draft him where he goes, last round. I don't need to draft him any earlier. Maybe if you really want to make sure you get him the second to last round, but that's where he goes. Honestly, I haven't forced the Ingram issue. I haven't made sure I get Ingram because I really don't think he gets suspended, and I don't want to blow a roster spot on a handcuff I don't need. But if you like to play it safe, you certainly can if you have the roster spot for him.
Daniel says, "What's up, gentlemen? Always a great show. You can only keep two. Which two? Dak, Hurts, or Lance?"
I would probably keep. I mean, it's tough to toss Lance back in there because you've been waiting for him now, and he does still have that cheat code upside. We never got to see it last year, but this is his team now. That being said, I have Hurts and Dak rated ahead of him. I mean, I love all three this year. I really do. there's a tier of like 14 quarterbacks. Like there's all the quarterbacks in the top 14. I really like them all. I just want to make sure I have 2 of those guys, and you're going to guarantee it. I would probably keep Dak and Hurts, but yeah, you would too, Truth? Okay. Yeah. It's so tough to let that sex appeal of Lance go, but
same logic. It would just, yeah. But like, I feel like Hurts is clearly the top guy, but I would take Hurts and Dak.
Yeah.
Toon says, you got to love Sloat. Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah, Toons.
And then he told us about the severe weather. Yeah. Nick said, Wan'Dale, I was the guy who tweeted you that I snagged him at 3.01 in my rookie draft.
Love it. I remember you tweeting at me, man. I think you got yourself a great pick. I was pissed. I really wanted him in round 3 of ours. He went the pick before me. Huge fan of Wan'Dale. I mean, the playmaker's already making plays.
And MVP of the Giants camp.
MVP of Giants camp, baby.
Daniel says, after last night's episode, do you view Hunt as the better option to have over Chubb in Cleveland? That might be pushing it a little bit, but
yeah, like at their prices, sure, because I don't want either, so I'll take the cheaper guy. But I mean, yeah, gun to my head, if I'm taking one to outscore the other, it's still Chubb. I mean, he's a generational player. Maybe they just make the offense like the Nick Chubb show. That's a possibility when you have Jacoby Brissett at QB. If they trade for Garoppolo, I'll completely. The Browns are just the roller coaster of the fucking offseason. Like, I won't change my stance on Donovan Peoples-Jones without Watson. I don't want him and Jimmy Garoppolo, but I would sure as hell take Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and you know, the dink and dunk Amari Cooper. Like, give me that all day if Jimmy.
Yeah, remember how excited you were briefly about the Browns?
And I still will be. If Deshaun Watson is playing 10 games, I will be all in on them again. But
I don't think
he's playing it down this year. Goodell's going to get what he wants.
Toon says, my boy Ayuk, let's fucking go. Scary stories and s'mores.
Yeah, ghost stories.
Yeah, that'd be funny. I'm picturing like one of them with like a flashlight under his head.
I love it.
Gary W says, boom, there they are. What's up, boys? What's up, Gary?
Milk Dud, you want to hear a real scary one?
It's like,
Gary, what's going on? Great to see you.
Face 55. I was trying to move Ayuk because I wasn't real confident with him. Now I'm glad nobody bit. Yeah, you can thank us for that if we're right.
If you were telling me that, like maybe even just a week ago, I'd be like,
said,
move as fast as you can. And you know, the star of camp and S'more's narrative. How can you not? That's
before we knew about it. Toon says Stevenson was working with Mac Jones all off season for that passing down role, but was he living with him?
Was he making s'mores? Were they telling ghost stories by a fire? Is he his milk dud? Right. These are the crucial questions.
All questions that need to be answered before we know if we should give a shit. Yo, soy Tony, fellas, football's back, baby. Yeah.
I love seeing all the regulars start to. It's when all the demons
trickling in,
crawl out of the closets and say hello because football's back. I don't know why I'm calling you guys demons, wolves. You know, it's a much better thing than demons. But it's just that's always a picture of the fantasy season. It's like all the people that you haven't heard from in years just kind of sliding out of their little, like slithering under their bed, like coming out and just saying hello again. I don't know why.
I think of it. The word I think of, you're talking about sliding slowly. I always think of the word oozing.
Yeah,
they just kind of ooze back towards us.
Coming, hello.
Right. There's like dripping down the wall.
Now you feel like listening to the passing rate of, you know, Sean McVay for the last 10 years.
Toon says, will Gerald Everett nibble too much of Parham's cheese? I'd say that's certainly
I'd say it's almost question. Like Everett's the preferred guy. Parham's going to be the one that's kind of constantly taking the touchdowns. You're like, motherfucker. You know, Everett will have the 60 catch, 60 yard catch day, and then
it could make a downside to both of them.
The fact I think I got to readjust with Everett because Parham really is a touchdown machine. Yeah. So, yeah, it makes me nervous.
And Toon says, is Watson taking the Browns to the Super Bowl? Not this year, Toons.
No way. No. I don't think ever, but.
No, I don't think either. Gary W. Finally, I got my home league draft scheduled. I was ready to draft in May. August 17th, I draft the champions. Pulling for you, man.
Gary, I'll have the guide out for you tomorrow, or not tomorrow, August 8th, Monday is my – I'm really going to push through this weekend. I can't really go anywhere anyways. I have COVID, so, you know, it is what it is. But I'm almost done anyways. I'm going to really power through. I had to plan yesterday's show and today's show. I have no shows till Monday with Harditz. I can't wait for that. But I'm really going to make those weekend days. Just going to kind of write till it's done. So I want to make sure you have that for your guide for the draft. Hell yeah. Is that everybody?
Right. Yeah. All right. I told my wife it was going to be an hour. Closer to 2.
The Super Bowl was supposed to be a joke about taking a dump. That makes more sense.
Anyway, that's it.
Oh, thanks, you told her it was an hour?
Of course I told her. I told her it was an hour because you told me it was an hour.
Yeah, I thought we would be faster than usual. Whoever thought I'd say that, huh?
I know.
Never been
seriously.
wrong there.
Right.
Sorry to keep you, and I'm sorry about that.
It's all right.
Go enjoy the Mario Kart. Thanks again, Truth. Always
Yeah, new tracks out today for all you Mario Kart fans.
Hell yeah. But thank you, Truth. Thank you, fans, for being here. RotoStreetJournal.com is where we breed and feed you wolves. You can find my big board with all the movement from these notes we talked about at RotoStreetJournal.com/bigboard/stockwatch. We'll get you all these news blurbs. We have some great new writers just crushing it for us. And of course, your familiar faces are doing so as well. The content's been really hot lately on the site, so go check it out. We've got some real new workhorses that are just churning out great stuff. And my draft guide, projections, all that good stuff. Next week, they will be launched. I'll go live to tell you guys all about it. We'll look at it together, all that good stuff as well. All righty. In a world full of fancy sheep, guys, be the wolf. Later.
Later.